Welcome to today's urgent press conference by our Radical New Bar Governing Council. I request for a bit of your patience for the next 10 or 15 minutes so that we shall be starting. We apologize for not starting on time, 10 a.m. as we promised, but we are getting set and we ask you to bear with us a little bit so that in the next 10 or 15 minutes, we shall be kicking off our press conference. I thank you so much for joining us and for always keeping your positive response to our urgent press conferences. I thank you.
Easter holiday because we are working back to back, because His Excellency says this case must be handled. Can you test that mobile court directives that you made as a judiciary? Take the court to where the incident happened and handle the case there and handle it fast. Of course, we always say that first in, first out, but there are exceptions. When there are public interest cases, they can be handled, and I think this one fits that. We always say that first in, first out, but there are exceptions. When there are public interest cases, they can be handled, and I think this one fits that. So, my Lord Archbishop, we are going to handle. My Lord, you also mentioned about this unfortunate event where we are going to be saying investigations continue. I think, my Lord, we are going to handle that case within this week. Yes. We hardly had Christmas, Easter holiday because we are working back to back. Because His Excellency says this case must be handled. Can you test that mobile court directives that you made as a judiciary? Take the court to where the incident happened and handle the case there and handle it fast. Of course, we always say that fast in, fast out, but there are exceptions. When there are public interest cases, they can be handled, and I think this one fits that. So, my Lord Archbishop, we are going to handle. My Lord, you also mentioned about this unfortunate event where we are going to be saying investigations continue. I think, my Lord, we are going to handle that case within this week. Yes. We hardly had Christmas, Easter holiday because we are working back to back. Because His Excellency says this case must be handled. Can you test that mobile court directives that you made as a judiciary? Take the court to where the incident happened and handle the case there and handle it fast. Of course, we always say that fast in, fast out, but there are exceptions. When there are public interest cases, they can be handled, and I think this one fits that. So, my Lord Archbishop, we are going to handle. My Lord, you also mentioned about this unfortunate event where we are going to be saying investigations continue. I think, my Lord, we are going to handle that case within this week. Yes. We hardly had Christmas, Easter holiday because we are working back to back. Because His Excellency says this case must be handled. Can you test that mobile court directives that you made as a judiciary? Take the court to where the incident happened and handle the case there and handle it fast. Of course, we always say that fast in, fast out, but there are exceptions. When there are public interest cases, they can be handled, and I think this one fits that. So, my Lord Archbishop, we are going to handle. My Lord, you also mentioned about this unfortunate event where we are going to be saying investigations continue. I think, my Lord, we are going to handle that case within this week. Yes. We hardly had Christmas, Easter holiday because we are working back to back. Because His Excellency says this case must be handled. Can you test that mobile court directives that you made as a judiciary? Take the court to where the incident happened and handle the case there and handle it fast. Of course, we always say that fast.
Atosola gamancho ina kazole nga ina mobile money ina nepini nampo wakazola bera ne mobile money katukwate ya mpende ko mobile money oyo chogamba abana kazole abakazola abebutabika bayina sente ku mobile money zabo ani yaziteseko ne kigendera shabade church. So we should not stop tulekeraawo abantu abakola ebibi tuleke okubabikirirako oyetaga kumukuba masasi wano ku State Square bayite abantu bonna nti mujje mulabe nga tutono omutemu tewajja kudamba mutekawo bateke bamusibe bulungi emigwawe bati bamukube ensi yonna ng'eraba kyo inokola otakola wote we are going to have no country tujja kubeera nansi wadde tugamba human rights. Okay, we can have the human rights, but such a person who slaughters and murders innocent babies should be put at the firing squad. What are they investigating? The investigation should know who gave him the money. Let's get his background, who gave him the money and what was the purpose of the money. Because he went to school, can a madman have a PIN number on his mobile phone? Can a madman, you know that I come from Chanja and you travel to Chanja, the next day you leave Chanja and you return? Can a madman know all those things? We should stop protecting criminals. A criminal is a criminal should face the law. And facing the law should be speedy trial, not even sending him on remand for 5 months, 6 months. That one requires speedy trial. He killed in action and you saw him killing. If he killed in action, let's investigate the cause. That investigation can last a week. And then they take him to court, read his charges. They ask him if he has defense, if he has no firing squad at State Square or Kororo Airstrip. It should be a lesson to mad people. Is a mad person? How can someone be mad and you have mobile man and you have a PIN number? And even you live in Chanja, you bought a taxi, you reach a tax park, you buy knives. If he was mad, the people who sold him knives, they didn't see him as a mad person. Did they sense madness in him? And when you entered, how come you locked the gate? How come you locked the administration block? So that one is premeditated murder. He's a terrorist. Should be treated like all terrorists. Firing squad.
My Lord, you also mentioned about this unfortunate event where we are going to be saying investigations continue. I think, my Lord, we are going to handle that case within this week. Yes. We hardly had Christmas, Easter holiday because we are working back to back. Because His Excellency says this case must be handled. Can you test that mobile court directives that you made as a judiciary? Take the court to where the incident happened and handle the case there and handle it fast. Of course, we always say that first in, first out, but there are exceptions. When there are public interest cases, they can be handled, and I think this one fits that. So, my Lord Archbishop, we are going to handle.
So we should not stop. Tulekerawo abantu abakola ebibi tuleke okubabikirirako oyetaaga kumukuba amasasi wano ku State Square bayite abantu bonna nti mujje mulabe nga tutoona omutemu tewajja kuddamu bamuteekawo bateekeo bamusibe bulungi emigwa bwe bati bamukube ensi yonna ng'eraba kyolina okukola otakola wote we are going to have no country tujja kubeera nansi wadde tugamba human rights. Okay, we can have the human rights, but such a person who slaughters and murders innocent babies should be put at the firing squad. What are they investigating? The investigation should know who gave him the money. Let's get his background. Who gave him the money and what was the purpose of the money? Because he went to school. Can a madman have a PIN number on his mobile phone? Can a madman know that I come from Chanja and you travel to Chanja? The next day you leave Chanja and you return. Can a madman know all those things? We should stop protecting criminals. A criminal is a criminal should face the law. And facing the law should be speedy trial, not even sending him on remand for 5 months, 6 months. That one requires speedy trial. He killed in action and you saw him killing. If he killed in action, let's investigate the cause. That investigation can last a week. And then they take him to court, read his charges. They ask him if he has defense, if he has no firing squad at State Square or Kororo Airstrip. It should be a lesson to mad people. Is a mad person? How can someone be mad and you have mobile man and you have a PIN number? And even you live in Chanja, you bought a taxi, you reach a tax park, you buy knives. If he was mad, the people who sold him knives, they didn't see him as a mad person. Did they sense madness in him? And when you entered, how come you locked the gate? How come you locked the administration block? So that one is premeditated murder. He's a terrorist. Should be treated like all terrorists. Firing squad.
My Lord, you also mentioned about this unfortunate event where we are going to be saying investigations continue. I think, my Lord, we are going to handle that case within this week. Yes. We hardly had Christmas, Easter holiday because we are working back to back. Because His Excellency says this case must be handled. Can you test that mobile court directives that you made as a judiciary? Take the court to where the incident happened and handle the case there and handle it fast. Of course, we always say that first in, first out, but there are exceptions. when they're public interest cases, they can be handled, and I think this one fits that. So, my Lord Archbishop, we are going to handle.
Atosola gamancho alina kazole nga ina mobile money ina ne pin number wakazola bera ne mobile money katukwate ya mtende ko mobile money oyo kyogamba abana kazole abakazola abebutabika balina sente ku mobile money zaabo ani yaziteseko ne kigendera kyabade kyaki. So we should not stop. Tulekeraawo abantu abakola ebibi tuleke okubabikirirako oyo yeetaaga kumukuba masasi wano ku State Square bayite abantu bonna nti mujje mulabe nga tutoona omutemu tewajja kuddamu bamuteekawo bateekeo bamusibe bulungi emigwa we bati bamukube ensi yonna ng'eraba kyolina okukola otakola wote we are going to have no country tujja kubeera nansi wadde tugamba human rights. Okay, we can have the human rights, but such a person who slaughters and murders innocent babies should be put at the firing squad. What are they investigating? The investigation should know who gave him the money. Let's get his background, who gave him the money and what was the purpose of the money. Because he went to school, can a madman have the PIN number on his mobile phone? Can a madman know that I come from Chanja and you travel to Chanja? The next day you leave Chanja and you return. Can a madman know all those things? We should stop protecting criminals. A criminal is a criminal should face the law. And facing the law should be speedy trial, not even sending him on remand for 5 months, 6 months. That one requires speedy trial. He killed in action and you saw him killing. If he killed in action, let's investigate the cause. That investigation can last a week. And then they take him to court, read his charges. They ask him if he has defense, if he has no firing squad at State Square or Kololo airstrip. It should be a lesson to mad people. Is a mad person? How can someone be mad and you have mobile money and you have a PIN number? And even you live in Chanja, you bought a taxi, you reach a tax park, you buy knives. If he was mad, the people who sold him knives, they didn't see him as a mad person. Did they sense madness in him? And when you entered, how come you locked the gate? How come you locked the administration block? So that one is premeditated murder. He's a terrorist. Should be treated like all terrorists. Firing squad.
My Lord, you also mentioned about this unfortunate event where we are going to be saying investigations continue. I think, my Lord, we are going to handle that case within this week. Yes. We hardly had Christmas, Easter holiday because we are working back to back. Because His Excellency says this case must be handled. Can you test that mobile court directives that you made as a judiciary? Take the court to where the incident happened and handle the case there and handle it fast. Of course, we always say that fast in, fast out, but there are exceptions. When they're public interest cases, they can be handled, and I think this one fits that. So, my Lord Archbishop, we are going to handle.
Thank you so much, ladies and gentlemen who are attending to us, both physically and online. Welcome to this very urgent press conference by our Radical New Bar Governing Council. Today, we are discussing two pertinent issues at hand. One of them is the current controversial Anti-Sovereignty bill, and then our Governing Council will be presenting the Executive Order RNB N0 of 2026. But we appreciate your patience and we thank you for being part of us for this press conference. We shall be joined by one of our guest speakers, that is Mr. Godbert Mshabe, who will be joining us online to talk about the protection of the Sovereignty Bill 2026. And then our council is here and very ready to talk about, to demystify the recently issued Executive Order RNB number 9 of 2026. Then, of course, our Radical New Bar president will be joining us online to also present his deliberations on the matters. But ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for always being part of us, and allow me extend our deepest apology for not beginning in the time that we had projected, that is 10 a.m. We continue to welcome the press and all members that are joining us online. The issues that we are tackling today have a series of happenings the way they've been going, but largely they are made to be by what I may call deliberate refusal by our main respondent, the judiciary, not to answer in a way that our Radical New Bar Governing Council or the Uganda Law Society or the National Bar expected it. We began it began with our Radical New Bar Governing Council writing to the judiciary, addressing letters to Honorable the Chief Justice, Honorable the Principal Judge, and the Principal Judge and the Director of Public Prosecutions. You're asking for an engagement. Okay. Writing, looking for an engagement over the matter that is currently at hand, that is the Gaba Mobile Court. But the deliberate refusal or non-compliance to what the council needed to engage or the bar needed to engage with them is why we are here with this press conference. Without wasting much of the time, I would like to invite our speaker, our first speaker, who is Mr. Godba Tumshabe, to talk about the sovereignty bill. Mr. Godba Tumshabe would be talking to us virtually, and then we shall have one of our council members, that is our acting secretary, Mr. Salibabu, to give a supplement or to supplement on Mr. Tumshabe's submission. So at this point of time, allow me invite Mr. Godba Tumshabe to take us through this, what is the civil society's perspective on this sovereignty bill. Thank you so much, Mr. Godba. Yes, Mr. Godba, can you hear me? Okay, yes, Mr. Godba, that you are muted. Please, could you unmute?
Can you hear me now?
Yes, I can now hear you.
Okay, wonderful. So, good morning, colleagues. I hope we have the president on board. I need to recognize him and all the colleagues that are online. Yeah, my name is Godba Tumshabe. I work with the Great Lakes Institute for Strategic Studies as one of the associate directors. And I'm very delighted to be here talking to you about, Isaac, is that a member of the Radical New Bar? Yeah. So,
yes,
I'm here to share with you just perspectives on the sovereignty bill. I should emphasize that I am not just giving the civil society perspective. I prefer talking about these matters as a citizen of Uganda, because really, even when we have our different affiliations, whether we work in the civil society space or the business space or the professional spaces, the bottom line is that most of these issues that we deal with from an advocacy perspective, they're actually issues that affect us as citizens in the first place, before they even affect us in our different affiliations. So I really want to talk about this issue as a Ugandan who has been monitoring or following most of the legislative efforts and agendas in this country. I want to, because a lot of work has gone into this, the analysis of this bill, the Protection of Sovereignty Bill 2026. I want to recognize many efforts that have gone in, where different constituencies have made comparing analysis of the impacts of this bill or the potential impacts on different segments of our society. And I want to single out the work being done by colleagues that I work with in the civil society space, Sarah Birete, Eunice Musime, Patricia Munabi, Job Kija, Andrew Karamaji, and a number of them. There were a couple of people that have been working on this issue, and I really want to recognize the kind of work they have done or they are doing. I want to single out our senior brother, Philip Karugaba, who really came up with a very compelling analysis of what this bill means for the business community and the legal profession, and used almost the same platform to really call up our senior colleagues in the legal profession to come out and be upfront on some of these pieces of legislation, because their impact go beyond the traditional bounds of legal practice, and therefore it's important for us to talk about them. There are a couple of other groups that we've worked with, that we are working with, that are doing different pieces of analysis. The Civil Society Budget Advocacy Group that has looked at the bill from a tax compliance and tax mobilization perspective, and many others. But let me, for purposes of this briefing, let me just highlight talk about four major issues. The first one is the constitutional basis of the bill, or the constitutional implications of the bill. Now, for most of us in the legal profession, we know that the 1995 Constitution provided the general consensus. It was a consensus among citizens on how citizens should be led or we should be governed. Now, in most cases, we even say that there could be imperfections with that constitutional framework. But I think at that time, that was the best that we could come up with in terms of creating a new governance architecture or a new governing consensus that we're able to give the state the mandate to govern over us. The reason I'm saying this is that right from 1995, actually from 1996, the current regime embarked on a process that has literally dismantled and eviscerated the 1995 Constitution. Actually, right now, I'm completing a piece of work that has overlaid all the amendments and the proposed amendments over the 1995 Constitution. The moment you look at it, you realize that actually we no longer have the 1995 Constitution. We literally have a new Constitution that cannot be recognized. So the Protection of Sovereignty Bill, in my view, is a furtherance of that evisceration of the Constitution. Because if you look at the amendments, the extensive nature of these amendments, you can literally say that the 1995 Constitution has literally been overthrown, because it hasn't happened anywhere in this world that you can have a constitution developed and adopted by a people, and then the executive and the legislature conspire to amend it to the level that it has been amended so far. So in this process of really overthrowing the Constitution, as I call it, I think that the second last nail was the enactment of the UPDF Amendment Act, because the UPDF Amendment Act essentially shifts legislative authority, substantive judicial authority from the judiciary to the military, and then places citizens within the fangs of the military because of the way the military operates. So in that context, then one needs to look at the Protection of Sovereignty Bill as the last nail in that process of overthrowing the Constitution, because now the Protection of Sovereignty Bill essentially transfers the sovereignty, appropriates the sovereignty of citizens from the citizens to the executive, so that the sovereign is no longer the person, is no longer the citizen. Power now belongs to the military, power belongs to the executive, to the extent that it can even define, or it can even determine whether you are a citizen or not. That is how far-reaching this proposed legislation can go. The second point I wanted to make that really the bill tries to deal with is the definition of citizens, that it is now claiming that actually there is someone who can define citizenship other than the Constitution. Because the citizenship is defined in the Constitution. And to be able to now to get a law that says now for you, if you are a Ugandan resident abroad, you are a citizen, or you are in that case you are a foreigner. That means that the law is seeking now to redefine what citizenship means, contrary to what is stipulated in the Constitution. So again, you can see how far-reaching a legislation of this nature can go, which I think is really something that that is quite unbelievable, that the government can sit and ignore the constitutional framework and try to rewrite the Constitution using different pieces of legislation. The third point that really for me is highlighted or comes out of the bill is that this bill is absolutely, let me put it this way, that the bill is titled in a very mischievous manner, Protection of Sovereignty Bill. I really want to convince you as colleagues in the legal profession that the protection of sovereignty is actually achieved through multiplicity of actions and legislation. So in other words, all the laws that we have that deal with certain that regulate certain conduct of citizens and non-citizens, such as the Money Laundering Act, or the NGO Act, or the Interception of Communications, or the Data Protection Act, all these laws are essentially about protection of citizens, or protection of sovereignty, sorry. So, in other words, it's a misnomer for government to go and enact a law and call it protection of sovereignty, because then you are basically saying that the other laws are of no consequence. My argument is that the reason they are calling it protection of sovereignty is to actually whip up emotions that come with sovereignty and foreign interference. So in other words, you need to whip up citizens' emotion to be able to sell a piece of legislation that essentially undermines citizenship. even if, because I think every state has a legitimate right and responsibility, or every government for that matter, has a legitimate responsibility to control activities of foreigners. That's why different countries have legislation on licensing of foreigners and foreign influence. So in other words, this law, if it were to have any value, it's actually a law about licensing of foreigners and foreign activities. But to call it a protection of sovereignty bill is a misnomer, and I think it's part of the mischief that normally characterizes the enactment of anti-civil liberties legislation in this country of ours. The fourth point that I would want to highlight is the scope or the extent of the impact of this legislation. That this law basically touches on almost every citizen or citizen group in this country. So you are talking about in the legal profession. You can imagine how many of our lawyers and firms engage with foreign business entities and foreign law firms. You are talking about the civil society. Those of us who work with think tanks and work with NGOs, the funding, because of the nature of our economic landscape, the funding for all these organizations come from foreigners. So in other words, you have to be reporting on every small thing that happens. And you know the threshold is at 400 million shillings. Then you go to the banks, that you are basically dealing with the banks where almost every bank is foreign. I think if I remember the data well, we may be having about 23 or 26 banks, and only 3 of these banks are considered to be indigenous. The rest of the banks are foreign. And then you are talking about the diaspora community, the huge human resource we have in the diaspora, both professionals and the kadamas, working, struggling every single day to earn a living, to support their families at home, to start businesses here. And then with the stroke of a pen, you can say, we no longer consider you to be a citizen, we consider you as foreigners. I think the latest data on remittances from foreigners from the diaspora essentially suggests that the current remittances stand at $2.5 billion annually. So if you have that kind of resource, it is inconceivable to be thinking that you are basically enacting a law that essentially disrupts this kind of activity. So that's the other group that is affected. And you can go on to the churches. You cannot go to the small businesses, the small business community. These people that you saw being evicted from our cities, from our town centers, the hawkers, the market vendors, those market women you see, many of them are using money sent by their relatives from the diaspora, and essentially you are basically trying to change all these economic relationships, probably because you fear citizens, because I think that is really the motivation for the legislation. So essentially you have all this coming up, and it's very unfortunate that we are basically legislating from this perspective. Let me conclude by basically saying that I always like quoting one former U.S. president who said that when the government fears people, there is liberty. When people fear government, there is tyranny. Now, in Uganda, there is a problem that government and people fear each other. So what the resulting effect is that you have chaos. So all this that you are seeing in terms of legislation, that because we came from the UPDF Amendment Act, We came to then the iPod legislation to disrupt funding for political activities. And then we've ended up with the Protection of Sovereignty Bill. And from the last order paper, there are constitutional amendments coming in. So you basically have a confused system where, in fact, it is even difficult to touch what the government is trying to do and the impact on the citizens. So I think that the legal profession, we have a Herculean task to be able to organize ourselves and be at the front line for trying to challenge some of these pieces of some of these legislative processes. Because as lawyers, sometimes we are tempted that, oh, we will wait. We will allow these laws to be enacted, then we can challenge them in court. But I think the judiciary system now has been also so compromised that actually challenging these laws in court is not good enough, because once it has been passed, you can even try to challenge it, and it takes you the next 5 years when actually the law is being utilized by the government. So what we are seeing right now, I think what the legal profession that needs to be looking at is that we are seeing, we've seen so far weaponization of state institutions against citizens. The NGO Bureau, the Financial Intelligence Authority, and all the other these institutions, they have been weaponized against citizens. Now we are seeing the increasing weaponization of the law or of the legislative process against citizenship, and that is what we are seeing with the Protection of Sovereignty Bill. I want to thank the Radical New Bar and our president Isaac and the team. The Vice President Anthony has been incredible, really holding forth in the absence of the physical presence of the president. I really want to extend the deepest appreciation of many of us who value and respect the work that you do on our behalf. And thank you for putting together this press briefing. And let me end there, and then we can have some exchange of views on the bill and what I've said. You realize what I have not done is to go clause by clause, because that's normally, as lawyers, that's what we normally do. I didn't want to do the clause by clause because I think what we need is to frame out the overall architecture of this bill, which is an anti-citizen and sovereignty bill. And because my recommendation is that if government listen to people, if it listen to us, it needs to abandon this bill and essentially bring out a specific legislation for registration of foreign agents, if that is their problem, and the control of the money if the existing laws like the Anti-Money Laundering Act and others are not sufficient. That's what they should be doing, rather than bringing a killer legislation like this bill. So over to you, Tim. Let me pause there for the time being.
Thank you so much, Mr. Godba Tumshabe. I am Adam Nwamanya, the head of communications, Uganda Law Society. Thank you so much. At this point of time, let me call our acting secretary, Honorable Council Sally Babu, to invite the president to take us to the next stage of our press conference. Thank you.
Yes, good morning, members of the Uganda Law Society, the members of the public, and those present at this press conference. As advised by Mr. Adam, Head Communications, Uganda Law Society, I wish to take this opportunity to invite the President of the Uganda Law Society, Mr. Isaac Chimaze Semakade, to give us brief insights on the same subject, and also to speak more onto other aspects, and thereafter we shall proceed with the next item, which is the Executive Order number 9 of 2026 by the Radical New Bar Governing Council of the Uganda Law Society. Thank you.
Thank Thank you very much, Comrade Babu, for that introduction. And of course, compliments to our resident intellectual, Mr. Godbert Mshabe. We don't take it lightly that you make out time to give us a broad outlay of what is at stake. I join you in registering compliments of the Radical Bar Governing Council to the colleagues at the bar and in the ecosystem of social justice that you have given credit for, helping represent the citizen at this juncture. I also adhere to the summary you've given that the name is mischievous, misleading, disingenuous. The proper name is anti-citizenship, anti-citizen bill, or anti-sovereignty bill. We are of the same mind, and we thank the colloquium you talked about for inviting us to join the thinking space, because sometimes the rationale has been that we shall come to the lawyers later. And I'm very happy that Patricia's circle, I think that's what I can call it, that's what it is, had the good sense to recognize Miss Patricia Mnavi. I think she's also an advocate, isn't she? But she's been at Forde for helping grow women's participation in politics. That they needed to invite us early to join the coalition, because that is what lawyers voted for. No.
Please.
So to invite us early, because on September 24th of 2024, in our September revolution as the bar, we got the mandate to join you on the streets. We got the mandate to join you in the political parties. We got the mandate to join you as citizens first. And it's a new dispensation that even confuses lawyers. Sometimes they wonder, is this, but we keep telling them this was debated and finished. We have to move forward. The river must flow forward. And Goodbye, you've done well also to recognize the scorched earth attack the government has launched on the citizen and institutions of the citizen. In the run-up to this bill, you've laid the framework very well. You exhaust us through the UPDF Act. Then you come for our NGOs. You pick our leaders, you abduct them, you exile them. Now, when the citizen is fully exposed, you say, let us deal with this, let us deal with you finally like this. And by then, the citizens are falling into despondence and pretty much don't know what's going on. The question is whether we can put up a resistance. And I think that's where we thank Mr. Karugawa very much in drawing a red line and saying that this concerns even those who think they are protected from the vagaries of bad politics. So on our part, as the Radical New Bar Council, I feel it's important that we should at this stage issue a cautionary statement. We've been looking at, as I speak now, my vice president is on radio somewhere in, I think, speaking Luganda, as I can say, laying the building blocks of the argument that the bar is going to join the citizen with. The first thing is a definition of sovereignty. We've identified that the bill doesn't even attempt to define sovereignty. So how will a policeman determine a policeman on the street, ordinary policeman, how will he determine what is a violation? But sovereignty is freedom. Sovereignty is liberty. Sovereignty is the citizen. The citizen is the sovereign. How do we need to bang the table on this a lot, that the government is a creature, it's a fiction created by citizens to do specific activities like, maintaining public health and public sanitation so that we all don't get cholera. But the government is very sneaky. You tell them to create a department of sanitation, they create a massive structure with accountants, with public servants, and so on and so forth, instead of buying cesspools. So that's how government becomes too big. So I think this bill, as you have said, is really about expanding government and reducing the civic space. This new creature is the Department of Peace and Security in the Ministry of Internal Affairs. Citizens just want better policing on the streets, not, in some obscure room in the Ministry of Internal Affairs. We also think that this bill is targeting the diaspora and targeting the international community. So we are building persuasions, arguments to persuade those two constituencies to get interested. Uganda's bilateral partners, those are states. Uganda's bilateral investors. If you invested your money in Uganda, we're going to be very clear starting next week that you have to withdraw your money. Think about withdrawing your money from Uganda. Write to the president of the Republic of Uganda and tell him, this bill passes, I will withdraw my money. I'll be withdrawing my money. Multilateral institutions, the World Bank, IMF, ADB, EDB, Exim, China, withdraw your money. Call up all your debt on this government. Because if you remain its contracting partners, you will be in breach of your own founding articles. You're not supposed to deal with this, with non-democracies, with non-republics, because this bill completely overthrows the foundational document on which you did a deal with Uganda. The constitution, as you know it, is being overthrown. So if you continue to deal with Uganda, while this bill is in existence, any agreements you continue to enforce with Uganda, consider them void, because once we topple this government, we will not honor those obligations, and we would have given you a warning as the national bank. So we are going to issue a warning to these institutions, and of course all the free peoples of the world. You have to stop coming to Uganda. Uganda has removed itself from the national community. So the proposed Protection of Sovereignty Bill 2026 is therefore not a law. It is an announcement of departure. Uganda is departing from all civilized democratic space and creating a special militarized zone, if I can call it DMZ. That's what they call it. What's this space in North Korea? Goodbye, you can help me, the DMZ. So we're going to become a North Korea. We are announcing ourselves as a pariah to the world. That's the meaning of this bill. It's the pariah bill. This bill, yes, criminalizes dissent, yet the whole purpose of our project since 1995 has been to say, let us accept democracy which frees up dissent. Let us permit criticism of the executive as a normal activity of citizens. But this bill says that that would be economic sabotage, an offense for which you could get all those donkey punishment. So, like Godbar said, this is a rewriting of the consensus of the 1995 Constitution. That means we are about to pick up arms against the government, because speech alone will attract death, will attract end of life. So we may as well die fighting. It redefines Ugandans abroad, of course, as foreigners. That point has been excessively met, but we shouldn't get stuck on that. It means that this bill, there's some silver lining. In every cloud, there's a silver lining. This bill redefines the diaspora as a site of struggle. And we are working together with our colleagues and partners to urge the diaspora people to drop the way they've been doing public participation before and get far more involved. Actually, this bill turns the light on you. It turns the limelight on you. You're no longer outside looking in. This bill makes you the stars now of the story. So improve your storytelling and everything and so on. We shall win that way. Your speech and your support is ended by this bill. Of course, it restricts foreign funding. It strangles media, NGOs, schools, hospitals, anything that operates outside state control, including law firms. So we have written letters to the senior counsel bar, those who have the biggest law firms, those who have the most traditional law firms, to speak truth. We want to see their truth. When I call people vaginas, they have the decency, they have the good sight to come up and say, that's offside. When we warned Ugandans that voting Museveni would not contribute to rule of law, we have studied the meaning of the ballot, and it is our duty to warn you that if you misuse your ballot, if the ballot returns Museveni, it will be the death of rule of law. We have a duty to tell you things in clear terms. The senior counsel bar wrote and said they disagree. I don't know what they disagree with. So I would like to see Mr. Edison Karuhanga return to defend this bill together with his regime. Because for us, we want the people against the regime. And that's not personal. That's a political opinion. That's an opinion on the politics of the country, that the politics of the country is responsible for establishing for us the operating environment for the judiciary and the practice of law. If the politics becomes irreversibly polluted, irreversibly contaminated, irreversibly decayed, that's why there must be constant change. There must be rules for change and renewal of the stream. Even River Nile doesn't have the same water as yesterday. That's how life is. So lawyers who have been surrounding themselves around Changwan's processors, we are going to identify you. You are the collaborators within us. For us, we're going to be very clear. We are no longer neutral. Of course, the bill is largely overly vague. It's vague, overly broad. It's dangerous by design. And it grants the regime the discretion to jail any opponent. And that would include the bar and the bar council. And Godbar, that has been the concern we've been discussing, and that's the concern we have to be ready for, because all our colleagues in the ecosystem have suffered intimidation, harassment, sanctions, prosecution, imprisonment, just for doing this work. But they've even, so the next thing is to ban the ULS. You can ban the ULS, but you won't ban the spirit. It's an international body. There will always be the bar. At this point, I would like to speak to the international communities that enjoy their existence by the very fact that Uganda is a member. In our particular case, the leadership of the East Africa Law Society has to understand that you won't take our subscriptions and stay away from existential battles like this. Otherwise, Ugandans are going to remove themselves from your institutions. And we should put pressure on all these institutions in which Uganda is a member to remove ourselves. They can't leave this for Uganda alone. So for us, we shall be putting pressure on all the institutions regarding the law. Stop calling yourselves international when you are not interested in the sum of our in the parts that complete you. So this bill is a signal to the rest of the world that the current government of Uganda no longer considers itself a member of democracies. You have to pass resolution on what this bill means for your very existence, the values you say you defend. All international commerce, East Africa community, and so on and so forth. There is a clause in the East African Community Treaty that the East African Community Secretary General must quickly bring to the attention of the summit, of the council, of the institutions, a threat to the values. This bill is a threat to the values, so we have to be good, but we are working a lot in council to build an international community awareness, action, activation, agitation program. It is the international community that lends to Ugandan government, trades with it, deals with it as they wish. Now, if they have no morals around that relationship, their brand will suffer extensively, and incoming governments will never forget when they abandoned us. If you are no longer dealing with the democracy, continue as if it's a normal day. But if you are not, we would like to see you on record next week. We make it very clear that you're now dealing, the regime has shown itself, the mask is off. You're now dealing with a regime that jails its citizens for thought, calls its own people foreigners, and uses sovereignty as a shield for impunity. That's how callous and scandalous this bill is. Instead, sovereignty is the sword for determination. You know, the example we use in council is that Ugandans can decide to be Rwanda. Any part of Ugandans, you can just decide to be Rwanda, and they shall become Rwanda. Government has no say in it. Ethiopia, sovereignty, you know, it's just a secession and all these things. That's sovereignty is it's really a right citizens have superior to statehood and so on and so forth. So the government is not going to hoodwink us. We are much better. We have tools. We have to keep speaking. I thank my sister Celebrate for telling me that we all commit to create 3 videos every week, 3 videos of 3 minutes each, every day, or at least every week, and then they go viral, and then we shall win. I think it's a good strategy. I want to stop here and say that we don't want to speak early. We have a chance to present position of the bar to the parliament institution by Friday. The time is, we find the deadline pernicious, we find the deadline torturous, we find the deadline strangling. So members of the bar, I think by now you have received a notice in your emails informing you to send your views individually, collectively, as a firm, as a group of firms, as a sector within the bar. You can send your clients' views. We're receiving everything. Our rule of law department is working throughout the weekend and throughout every day. Reach out to them. The most iconic thing about this bill, in conclusion, is the author. Its author is not a human. Its author is a machine. The bill is the product of generative AI. You can glean from the content of the bill that it lacks human logic. It's full of hallucinations, and it's grossly inconsistent, of course, with the architecture of Uganda law. So somebody I warned you about in 2021 in my article, Chiliowa Chiwanuka is the wrong man for the wrong job. This weekend, I asked everyone to read that article again. There is a part in that article that I will recommend. I said, the errand boy, this man is a useful idiot. And when the great questions of the day come, and they are coming, you will see it for yourselves. It will now be very clear. But for most of you, it will be too late. So I close by saying, this is a bill in which the worst of the worst clauses that the machine could pick up from all these, it's simple. It combines two things, as God has shown us: foreign agent registration. Foreign agent registration is a well-known regime of law. It's a well-known legal framework which falls in two categories: democratic and despotic. Democratic regimes also require foreign agent registration. So let us not be deceived when someone uses that argument. But also despotic regimes have foreign agent registration. So this person asked the machine to gather only the provisions of foreign agent registration in despotic regimes and put them in one box. And then the regime went for protection of sovereignty laws across the world. Yes, across the world, countries write laws in the nature of protecting sovereignty. Different aspects of sovereignty, even on general framework laws of sovereignty. And those laws too fall in two categories: democratic and despotic governments. So this person asked, no, do not ask the machine, commanded the machine, leave out protection of sovereignty laws that come from democratic regimes that pass the test of democracy. Give me those that have been labeled despotic. Now merge these two. So the regime, so it's a simple A plus B is equal to C. A, despotic foreign agent registration regimes for despotic governments and countries across the world, plus B, sovereignty framework laws, sovereignty protection framework laws for despotic regimes across the world. And give me a product quickly. And when the product came, the person was happy. Yes, all these people that threaten our good life in Uganda, we're going to finish them. This is how people like Chiwachonka think, because for them, they grew up under great trauma and they think trauma is a personal thing. Their trauma is bigger than our trauma. So all throughout their life, their biggest aspiration was wealth and closeness to power and zero accountability. And they have achieved those things in their lifetime. So they feel honestly like they are gods on earth. But you know what? Their biggest fear is that all that can go at a sweep like this. To switch like this. If we wake up and on Tuesday the Gen Zs have burnt parliament and they have entered Museveni's bed, Chilewa Chiwanuka would be out of this country. He would be begged if, they know the eventuality is coming. They hope to stop it. But with this kind of bills, we can only laugh and say, the day is coming. We shall be in your bedrooms, eating your food and taking selfies. I thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. President, for that jovial and lively conclusion on your perspective of all the radical new bars take on this anti-sovereignty bill. At this point of time, allow me welcome our head of ideology, Radical New Bar head of ideology, that is Advocate Munagomba. Thank you so much. The President is already aware that you're here. Thank you so much for coming. And Mr. President, thank you so much for always being there for us in terms of guidance and in critical media conferences like these ones. I will call Council Advocate, our acting secretary, Mr. Sali, Babu, to give or to give a highlight or to summarize something on the sovereignty bill, or to add on what the president has presented for the press. And then from there we shall go to the next program, which is presentation of the executive order. I thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Adam. And I wish to thank the earlier speakers, that is the senior citizen Goba Tumushabe, as well as my president, Mr. Isaac Chimaze Semakade, for those insights into the purported sovereignty bill. And I also wish to state that the position of the bar is clear in relation to the same. This bill is one that is restrictive of democratic oversight, a shrink to civic space, and could potentially damage international relations and economic growth. Therefore, as the Ugandan bar, our position is that we shall come up with a conclusive legal guidance on the same, which shall be presented before Parliament. However, we should take note that the government should be appreciative of the fact that the intentions of the bill will be diverse, not only in relation to employment. We earlier saw what happened when DGF was laid off. We had over 5,000 Ugandans lose employment, and therefore we would not want to stay in the same direction. And whoever is behind this bill should also know that the donor funding has been sustaining our budget as a country that cannot sustain itself in the areas of education, in the areas of legal access, in areas of agriculture. So with such a bill that is being fronted for selfish reasons, we would find that it is going to have gross impacts economically and even in terms of relations with other countries. And therefore our position as the National Bar is we reject it, we condemn all those who are behind it, and for all the MPs that will present and propose or support this bill, we shall in all ways condemn them, and we shall bring this information to the public so that members of the public know how greedy their representatives are. Because we have seen that while they were in Chankwazi, the NRM members of parliament were promised 100 million of taxpayers' money, and 20 million of that was advanced. So this can ably guide the members of the public as to where the government is moving, because these small monies that dig deep into the taxpayers' money is what the government uses to buy them off if they have a critical bill, one that should be passed after wide consultation with the membership at the grassroots, because the impacts of the supposed protection of sovereignty bill are really far-reaching to all Ugandans, and therefore the members tabling this should really think twice about the same, because it is not only going to affect the government, but even access to several other activities and services that the members of the public were accessing, as I mentioned earlier, in the areas of agriculture, in the areas of access to justice. And you find that the government itself in different departments and ministries are heavily and hugely running on donor funds. So if this bill is passed in one way or the other, we will have gross impacts and we shall see that we shall be affected as a country. Therefore, that is our position as the Uganda Law Society, that we shall in all ways condemn, oppose, and reject this bill. Thank you. Further, in relation to the executive order, that is Executive Order number 9 of 2026, which was passed by the Radical New Bar Governing Council of the Uganda Law Society. I also wish to take this same opportunity to bring the same to the attention of the members of the public, the members of the Uganda Law Society, and all stakeholders within the justice, law, and order sector, because it is one that was delivered or agreed upon after gross consultation and reflections on several aspects which relate to human rights enforcement and violation of the same by the council who are in conduct on the side of defense or state in the ongoing matter, or the one you could famously or infamously refer to as the Gaba trial. And it goes by denunciation of state-paid defense counsel Sarah Awero and Richard Kumbuga for their silence on the cardinal guardrail of venue impartiality in the Gaba Mobile High Court Circuit session, contrary to their professional duties under international and domestic standards. Whereas the judiciary of Uganda by the announcement dated 11th April 2026 convened the first mobile high court criminal session at Gaba Community Church grounds in Makindye Division, Kampala, presided over by Justice Alice Komuhanji Kauka, in the high-profile trial of Christopher Okello Onyum on 4 counts of murder arising from the killing of 4 toddlers at a Gaba Care Center. Whereas this venue choice, deviating from the permanent high court premises and placing proceedings in a tented church grounds setting within the exact traumatized community, raises reasonable apprehension of bias under the objective test of impartiality, thereby breaching the cardinal principle that the tribunal must not only be impartial, but manifestly be seen to be impartial, as guaranteed by Article 28 of the Constitution of the Republic of Uganda, Article 14 of International Covenant on Civil and Political Rights, Article 7, 1D of the African Charter on Human and People's Rights, UN Human Rights Committee General Comment number 32 of 2007, the African Commission Principles and Guidelines on the Right to Fair Trial and Legal Assistance in Africa, and consistent reports of the UN Special Rapporteur on the independence of judges and lawyers. Whereas the Uganda Law Society has unequivocally condemned the arrangement as unconstitutional, unsafe, and a calculated fraud on the public and rule of law, has filed a human rights application number 170 of 2026, has attempted access to presiding judge, and has suffered obstruction and forcible removal of its representatives under police guard at the session. Whereas state-paid defense counsel Sarah Awero and Richard Kumbuga, appearing on record for the accused, were expressly copied to the society's formal protest correspondence and fully aware of the bar's collective protests, and failed to attempt to access and address the presiding judge, yet have maintained complete public and procedural silence on the fundamental fair trial violation, despite their direct duty to protect their client's right to an impartial tribunal. Whereas the state brief scheme constituted under Article 28(3) of the Constitution of the Republic of Uganda to guarantee the right of indigent accused persons to legal representation at the expense of the state, has been starkly exposed in this case and in the documented experience of countless prisoners across Uganda as chronologically deficient in securing fearless, independent, and effective defense counsel. Whereas the United Nations Principles on Roles of Advocates, 1990, provides the preamble that adequate protection of human rights and fundamental freedoms requires that all persons have effective access to legal services provided by an independent legal profession, and that professional association of lawyers have a vital role to play in upholding professional standards and ethics and cooperating with institutions in furthering the ends of justice, and stipulate further, Principle 12, that lawyers shall at all times maintain the honor and dignity of their profession as essential agents of the administration of justice. Principle 14, that lawyers in protecting the rights of their clients and in promoting the cause of justice shall seek to uphold human rights and fundamental freedoms recognized by the national and international law, and shall at all times act freely, diligently, in accordance with the law and recognized standards and ethics of the legal profession. Whereas the International Bar Association Standards for the Independence of the Legal Profession, 1990, affirm in the preamble that the independence of the legal profession constitutes an essential guarantee for the promotion and protection of human rights, and that professional association of lawyers have a vital role to uphold professional standards and ethics and to cooperate with governmental and other institutions in furthering the ends of justice, and further provide under Standard 6, the lawyer shall at all times act freely, diligently, and fearlessly in accordance with the legitimate interests of the client and without inhibition or pressure from authorities or the public. Standard 10, a lawyer shall have the right to raise an objection for good cause to the participation or the continued participation of a judge in a particular case, or to the conduct of a trial or hearing. Standard number 14, lawyers shall have a right to take part in public discussion of matters concerning the law and administration of justice. Standard number 18F, the functions of lawyers' associations include to promote the right of everyone to prompt, fair, and public hearing on the role of lawyers, that is Principle 12 and 14, and the IBS standards for the independence of the legal profession, which is Standard 6, 10, 14, and 18. Reminder of duty. The society reminds all members, particularly counsel appearing in this matter, that the right to a fair trial before an independent and impartial tribunal established by law is non-derogable. Defense counsel, whether privately, retained or state-paid, are not mere spectators. They are duty-bound to raise timely, fearless objections to any arrangements that creates even the appearance of executive influence, community pressure, or unwarranted departure from permanent judicial venues. Section 3, a call to rectification. Sarah Awero and Richard Kombuga are forthwith called upon to place on record in open court their objection to the venue and to join the society in demands or other neutral venue as complies with the impartiality guarantee. Continued silence will be construed as further acquiescence in the erosion of fair trial standards. Section 4, call for reform of the state brief scheme. In light of the flaws glaringly exposed by the instant case and the insidious systemic violations of human rights of Uganda's many prisoners who depend on the state brief scheme, the society decries the government's refusal to pass the National Legal Aid Bill 2022 and on human and people's rights for information, in witness whereof we hereunto set our hands at the ULS House Kololo and caused the seal of the Uganda Law Society to be affixed on this 17th day of April 2026, and the same was signed by the President of the Uganda Law Society and the Acting Secretary of the Uganda Law Society. Therefore, with this executive order, we wish to bring it to the attention of all members of the public and the lawyers that lawyers have 4 cardinal duties, but the lowest in rank of all is the duty to the client. However, we look at the duty to court, and we direct that for all advocates appearing in matters that are contentious as one of this nature, we should put court objections fearlessly and independent and guide court on the several aspects of constitutional and human rights violations. Secondly is the duty to the public, whereby you see that if court is in breach of community value principles, as an advocate, you should thereby speak out fearlessly and independent in regard to your duty to the public. Lastly is in relation to the duty to the bar. Every member of the bar should know that the bar is bigger than each advocate they are under, and therefore the bar supersedes its members. You cannot therefore bring court to someone's bedroom, like in the instant case, and when fellow members of the bar or representatives of the bar approach any member in a particular trial and inform them of protests by the bar on a particular matter of human rights violation, it is the duty of counsel in a particular matter to forward the position of the bar to a judicial officer in the said matter fearlessly and independent, because every advocate has a duty to the bar to which they belong, and therefore for the actions of the said defense lawyers who are state paid and on brief to act in the manner that they did, it only depicts that their loyalty is to the state that pays them, their loyalty is to the judiciary that appoints them, and therefore they do not see their duty to the client, their duty to the bar, and their duty to the public as superseding their commitment to the people who appoint them, which is the state, and those that pay them, which is the state and the judiciary. Thank you.
Before Councilman Agomba. Yes, good afternoon, everyone. My name is amanya gange nze munamateeka Isiko Arthur nga ndi muwandiiko w'ekitongole kya Uganda Law Society. Ngenda kubanga mbawa version y'Oluganda olw'ebintu ebyogeddwa bannamateeka basoose okwogera. Ekisooka ng'ekitongole kya Uganda Law Society tuwakanya nesse kuwakanya yenna ebbago erireeteddwa mu mateeka libayita the protection of the sovereignty bill erireeteddwa bannamateeka abali mu parliament. Tuliwakanya olw'ensonga nti alikuntana ne ssemateeka. Ssemateeka waffe ow'eggwanga nga bannamateeka bawogedde mu maaso awo agamba nti Abannayuganda nga bo banaabeeranga bakulu nnyo be banaasingangayo, era buli tteeka lyonna lyonna erikolebwa lirina okuba nga likolebwa nga likiteeka mu bwongo nti abantu Abannayuganda be bavaako buli tteeka erijja mu ggwanga. So olw'ensonga eyo tugamba nti etteeka eryo libeere nga lisazibwamu, era President wa Uganda Law Society avuddeyo n'ayogera nti etteeka eryo twandibadde tuliwa erinnya eddala, nti twandibadde tuliyita the Anti-People's Bill, nti etteeka eryo lirina engeri gye likontanamu n'abantu. Ekyokubiri, mulimu obuwaayiro obw'enjawulo obujja bukontana ne ssemateeka. For example, ogamba otya nti Omunnayuganda ali wabweru w'eggwanga mugwira? ekyo kintu kikulu nnyo era tusaba kibeere nga kisazibwamu nesazibwamu yenna omuntu abeera Munnayuganda oba ali wano eno oba ali wabweru wa ggwanga asigala Munnayuganda. Ekyokubiri ekyokutandika okulinnyirira ebitongole oba biwandiise nga the NGOs oba civil society organizations nti bwe zinaaba zikola emirimu zaagyo balina okuba nga basooka kufuna olukusa okuva mu bitongole ebiwandiikiddwa mu tteeka eryo. Tulowooza nti ekintu ekyo kiri mu kukendeeza eddembe lyabwe okubanga bayambako gavumenti nga bawabula mu nsonga ezimu ezeekuusa ku mateeka. Constitution yaffe evaayo bulungi n'ekirambika nti abantu banaaba nga baddembe okuba nga bakuŋŋaanira wamu nga bwe baagala oba the right to associate nti omuntu yenna waddembe okuba nga associatinga n'omuntu yenna. Ekyo ng'okivuddeko olwaleero twogedde ku kintu ky'okuba nti bannamateeka oba bandise state paid defense attorneys balooya baba nga be bawolereza omuntu yawawabiddwa mu kkooti gwe bayita onyom. Muzze muwulirako keesi ery'eggaba nti abaana bato bana basangajibwa omuntu sawa zino gwe twogerako ali mu kkooti. Ffe ng'ekitongole kya Uganda Law Society kisooka twagala tutegeeza Omunnayuganda ali eyo nti omuntu yenna constitution egamba nti anaabanga tannasingizibwa musango paka nga kkooti emaze omusingisa omusango nti you are not guilty until court finds you guilty. So ensonga eyo wetwogerera sawa zino eri mu kkooti era wabaddewo bannamateeka baffe omuli Counsel Sarah Awero ne Counsel Richard Kumbuga nga be bawolereza omuntu avunaanibwa. Ffe ng'ekitongole kya Uganda Law Society olwaleero tuvuddeyo ne tugamba nti abantu abo kye bakola okubanga basirise ku nsonga enkulu ennyo ey'okuba nti ekifo kyonna ekiwozesebwamu omuntu kirina okuba nga kiri impartial nga tekireetawo mbeera yonna ereetera omuntu okuba nga yesittaza nti abantu abaana baabwe abattibwa mu kifo ekyo balina ekintu kye bawulira nga bwe baba bazze mu kifo ekyo n'okuba nti no bawa obujulizi kirina engeri kyekikola gye kirinyiriramu empoza yaabwe. N'ekyokubiri n'omuntu ono yennyini eyatta oba atebezebwa okuba nga yatta abaana abo okuba nga naye azzibwayo mu kifo ekyo era nakyo kirina engeri gye kirinyirira ekyo kiwandiise venue impartiality. Era olw'ensonga eyo ng'ekitongole kya Uganda Law Society olunaku lwaleero tuvuddeyo ne tuwa executive order. Ekisooka nga tugamba nti kkooti eyateekebwa eggabwa yawandiise nga the first mobile high court criminal session bagiteekawo mu bukyamu. Mu kuteekawo kkooti eyo tebagoberera mateeka agasangibwa mu constitution ya Republic of Uganda. Ekyokubiri tugamba nti balooya okuvaayo ne basirika ku nsonga y'okuba nti no kkooti eyo eriwo mu bumenyi bw'amateeka nakyo kikontana n'omulimu gwabwe nga bannamateeka. Buli munnamateeka buli woolaba ensonga yonna nga eri mu kulinnyirirwako eyeekuusa ku mateeka olina okuvaayo ensonga eyo n'ogitegeeza kkooti. Bwe twogerera ensonga eno twagitegeezako kkooti era twawandiika omusango gwandiise miscellaneous application 170 gwa 2026 nga tugamba nti kkooti eyo esooke eyimirize empoza yaayo ebeereko n'okunoonyereza era n'okusalawo ku nsonga y'okuba nti kkooti eno eriwo mu butuufu oba eriwo mu bukyafu. Ensonga eyo bwetwogerera paka n'olunaku lwaleero tennaba kutunulwamu kkooti. Tukoze buli kisoboka okuba nga tuwandikira kkooti ne balooya bali mu musango ogwo bandiise nga state paid defense attorneys. Ensonga eyo esiriikiriddwako era y'ensonga lwaki ffe nga bannamateeka tuvudde ne tugamba nti balooya abo abali mu musango ogwo tubavumirira era tugamba nti tubajjukiza omulimu gwabwe nga balooya okuba nti baba bawoza emisango gino egyekuusa ku bantu balina okumanya nti okubanga owolereza abantu abo olina okubeera ng'okitegeera nti obuvunaanyizibwa obusooka buba eri kkooti, the duty to court. Nti bw'oba owoza omusango ogwekuusa ku mateeka olina okumanya nti olina obuvunaanyizibwa obuli eri kkooti nti onaategeezanga kkooti ku nsonga zonna ezeekuusa ku nsonga y'amateeka. Ekyokubiri tubagamba nti beekube mu mitima obudde tebunagenderera nnyo ensonga eyo olunaku kkooti lwenaddamu okutuula babeere nga bagitegeeza kkooti era ebeere nga ekyusibwamu. N'ekyokubiri oba ekisembayo wabeerewo ennongoosereza mu ngeri balooya abaweerwa emirimu egy'okuba nti bawolereza abantu abagiddwako emisango gye gikolebwamu. Tulowooza nti singa baba bagoberedde akawaayiro 28 aka Constitutional Republic of Uganda akagamba nti wanaabeerangawo akakiiko kawandiise nga the Independent Legal Aid Authority, nga akakiiko ako kaddembe okuba nga kalonda bannamateeka abawolereza omuntu yenna aguddwako omusango, era nga bakikola nga tebayinaamu kyewandiise nga kulagirwa. Bano balooya be tuli mu kwogerako balagiddwa, they are state paid, nti gavumenti yabasindise ne bagamba mugende muwoze ku nsonga eno n'eno. Tulowooza nti tetumanyi babawadde orders ki, bazikola batya, so ensonga eyo erina okuba nga ekyusibwamu. So ekigambo byonna bye njogedde waggulu awo twabitadde mu executive order number 9 eya 2026 nga yasayiningiddwako omukulembeze w'ekitongole kya Uganda Law Society Isaac Kimuze Ssemakadde n'omuwanika waffe gwandiise nga secretary Sali Babu, neyanziza nnyo okumpuliriza. Let me invite the MC of the day. I'll take us to the next session.
Okay, thank you so much, our council, for that very important submission and the reason why we were here. And please, members of the press, I please request some patience a bit. We would love to take you through the question answer session. And in this case, anyone with a question, you could put it to the council, they are there, and the president would be the one to answer us as we await our VP who is joining us shortly in the next 5 minutes. So ladies and gentlemen, members of the press, anyone with a question? You have it? Yes. Yes, Ramson.
Is there a microphone to reach them?
Pardon?
Do we have one microphone?
We have a second microphone in place.
Let's shift the camera to the questioner, interlocutor.
Yes, incidentally,
Or
yeah,
he can come over here.
Drake, do you have some questions online? Yes, thank you. I can see. Yes, Mr. President, there is a question here on whether it is possible for the ULS to seek to have a direct interface with the executive to share our misgivings about the bill. That is a question by Paul Galandi. And there is another question. Someone is saying, Council Godba has brought out, I think this is a remark, has brought out a point that we need to ponder on waiting for the bad laws to be passed, then challenge them in courts of law. In my wisdom or lack of it, we could do a little more constructive engagements with the legislators and the people before, during, and after the passing of such laws. Yes, Mr. President, I request that you answer, pardon? You answer the first question of whether you have some plans to engage the executive over the bill, and then we will see more questions that are coming. Thank you. Mr. President.
Thank you very much for that question, Mr. Galandi. Yeah, am I audible?
Yes, you are very audible, sir.
Can you hear? Yeah. Well, I wanted to say that short answer is if the executive desired to receive views about its proposed bill, it would have consulted us. I will use the example of the draft National Legal Examination Centers Bill, Examination Center Bill, the bill which proposes to abolish LDC and retain it in some form. You know, we citizens, some of us started a campaign in the year 2021 to abolish LDC. And we offered our reasons to the executive, and the executive processed them. They are now in a bill. The bill is being saturated. People are being invited to consult on it. The bill is not yet on the floor of Parliament, but it's out there. You know about it. You have seen it. How come that this protection of sovereignty bill didn't go through a pre-consultation stage? You know, why was it sealed? We had any conversations on it? Well, it wanted only to, it kept them only to a subcommittee of Parliament, and now they waited. Even the timing is suspicious. Why present the bill at the 11th hour as the term of this Parliament concludes in the last 2 months? This Parliament's term ends, Godback is more familiar, but I think it ends in May, mid-May, thereabouts. So why bring, this is a matter which concerns nearly every chapter of the Constitution. Why didn't the government announce it before the election, so that it should be a question, not just us? Why do you want to privilege the law society? It concerns the citizen. So why wasn't the citizen informed that if you vote Museveni's government back, its first act of business is to bring a bill of this kind? I feel proud, I feel vindicated as president of the bar that I told you, members of the bar, I told you, citizens of Uganda, reject Museveni at the ballot, because should you even consider allowing him to go past the he will sink this country. The system, the machine around Museveni is no longer thinking logically. They are locked in a game scenario that leads them only to total destruction. They just want us to accompany them there. So, Mr. Galandi, prepare for a confrontation, the mother of all confrontation with the state. If it's too much for you, shift your family to Nairobi this month before this bill passes. If you can afford it, shift to Nairobi. Shift to Nairobi. Leave Kampala. Kampala is going to be a battle zone. The duty of the law society is going to join the Gen Zs on the streets to finally, ultimately kill the Museveni regime, terminate it. They have given us the site of battle. This is it. There's been no further call. Power will not yield our liberty to us. We must take it. This is the opportunity to retake our courts, to retake our country back, to retake our institutions, and to retake our presidency. They're not going to give it to us. Power does not yield concessions without demands, demands that concern, you know, they want all the power of the citizen to themselves. They are beyond salvation. They will talk, yes, only after they've suffered damage. Only then. I think you need to read more a little about power and when. There's a book by Henry Chamber, State of Blood. Henry Chamber was like you. He remained in Amin's government. He explains chapter by chapter. Every chapter ends with a defection from the reign of terror. So he's giving us cause why he remained. 1970, I think he was a permanent secretary. Then the minister has disappeared. Then Amin said, I'm done with these ministers. They're all treacherous. I'm appointing every permanent secretary minister. He became a minister, and so on and so on. But by 1977, the center couldn't hold. I think he had also left. So he says the last person to leave was Rule, the Attorney General. Or maybe when Rule left is when he realized that things are really now bad. But, it should really sort of blood. This is the trajectory. We all like peace and stability, but when someone has announced that they are going to control every aspect of human behavior, they want to control when you breathe, how much oxygen you take in, and you have to apply. So those are not people who want to do conversations and discussions. I'm sorry. We don't want to sugarcoat it. You can try. Independently, as a member of the bar, you have autonomy. You can try. We are writing letters to all of you to try to engage the executive in your own autonomy. At the bar, there are two levels of autonomy. There is the autonomy of the advocate, Principle 23 of the UN Principles. Every lawyer, Babu, can you read it for him? I think that's the best answer. Principle 23 of the UN Principles.
Mr. President, Council Babu is not here.
That's what it is.
He's engaging some.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, I can probably read it in the record. It says, that we are citizens first, and we must engage our government ourselves. So don't wait for the bar. The bar is creating its position. We are consulting, you see. We have called this press conference to consult members of the bar before we present views to Parliament. Government didn't do the same thing. So, Principle 23 for the UN Principles, it says here that Principle 23, freedom of expression and association. I'm reading from the UN Basic Principles on the role of lawyers, 1990. Lawyers, like other citizens, are entitled to freedom of expression, belief, association, and assembly. Now, all these rights are being affected excessively. In fact, they are being completely extinguished by the bill. They will be subject to an application and an approval system for which the criteria are unknown. Even the person giving that authority is unknown and undefined in the bill. You will just be accused of having expressed an unapproved view, an unapproved belief, an unapproved association, and an unapproved assembly. In particular, they shall have the right to take part in the law is cancelled by this bill. Our participation in the East African Law Society is cancelled by this bill. Our participation in the Commonwealth Lawyers Association is cancelled by this bill. We applied to be the host for the Commonwealth Lawyers Conference in 2029. We won the bid as regards African countries that were in the race. we are left with 3 other competitors. Do you really think we are still a contender now with this bill? So all entities, I think the office called Tourism Uganda or something, it's closed. What they call, Adam, we invited those people, they call it the office to promote the bringing of expos and carnivals and what to Uganda. Who was Henry and Paul? Paul Bukenya, I think, I don't know. They came to visit us here. They call it, what's their unit in the Uganda Tourism Board called? You know. So that's it. How can we be competitive when the bill is saying that shall be subject to approval? Who is that person who has approval for all human activities in this country? This is the same nonsense we have seen with UCC saying that, don't open a website without approval from us. That Parliament gave us the right to control online communication services. And that includes any website on Jesus Christ. You know, and their lawyers. My brother, with a PhD, is out there defending these things before magistrates that are only happy to approve these things because the system of the judiciary holding government accountable, it collapsed. We enter court when they have already discussed the result. The Gava case has shown you that the access of lawyers to a courtroom is now a matter of the military. The military will determine whether you get to access a courtroom, a civilian court. I've just been asking the president of the East African Law Society, the CEO of the East African Law Society, that what's happening in Uganda must concern you. It has been happening for a whole week. We are putting out communications and you're ignoring all this. What is your concern? You're happy to receive our subscriptions. And when our rights of practice, our conditions of practice are under attack, you just watch like mere spectators. So Ugandans, this is how institutions that are international, are global look like. They will abandon you when you need them the most. East African Law Society has abandoned us. The only thing the president of East Africa wants to hear is facilitation for them to fly in here apparently to greet our judges. I said, are these judges? They're under capture. So this is a battle we are going to have to fight ourselves. I don't think taking tea with the executive will solve anything. I leave you to read the rest of the clause, but it says we should do all these activities, we should be able to attend our meetings with international organizations without suffering professional restrictions by reason of our lawful action or our membership in a lawful organization. Now, that right is cancelled. So, you ask yourself, has there been a chance? Yes, I wrote in 2021 that the executive's choice of leader for the legal profession, for the judiciary, is dangerous. It earned me an exile and a banishment and an ostracization. It also earned me leadership because some people who read that article 3 years later are the ones who invited me and said, we are sorry, Isaac. When you first wrote that article, we thought you were exaggerating. But 3 years in, we have seen the body of evidence and we have a sense of what's coming the next 2 years. So our view is, if you can forgive us, we shall give you money and you can run and be president and we shall protect you. These are lawyers who are highly connected to the executive. This was their view. That the executive will not listen unless you bang the table. The slogan is theirs. So this idea that you have that someone is going to fight, that your sovereignty is up for negotiation with the executive is fundamentally wrong. It shows that you don't understand sovereignty, you don't understand what's at stake, and you haven't listened to a thing Godiba has said. You have been completely brainwashed, Mr. Galandi. You cannot negotiate on your own human existence. We can't go to the executive to negotiate life. Museveni did not create our life. He didn't give us thinking. He didn't give us dealings. The deals, partners you make in a total space, Museveni doesn't select them for you and can't claim that right. And you can't debate that with him when he was out there choosing which international partners to give him guns to come and attack Uganda. How come he didn't ask for Obote? You know, let us be serious. Let us not go back where we shouldn't be. Let us find a baseline of knowledge that we work with. For us as the bar, we gave you a baseline called the UN Basic Principles. Everything should be answered by the UN Basic Principles and the IBA standards. And it's here, it's telling us in Principle 23, in exercising these rights, lawyers shall conduct themselves in accordance with the law and the recognized standards and ethics of the legal profession only. You will not add on us a form of interference called Protection of Sovereignty Bill. What if we received instructions from a group of people whose cause is to secede from Uganda, and we must represent them? This provision, this is a document, this is a treaty, a resolution of the General Assembly. It says we have a right to take those instructions. And it says here, that's the principle 18. Lawyers shall not be identified with their clients. So if I'm representing a person accused of murder, I won't be called a killer's lawyer. Lawyers are protected from that kind of heinous identification, labeling, damaging labeling. Lawyers shall not be identified with their clients or their clients' causes as a result of discharging their functions. We are our profession intervenes, stands in the gap when the cause is unpopular. When the client is unpopular, we are expected to stand in the gap and bring the finest tradition of the bar as representatives to show that justice must be tempered with mercy. Because justice untempered with mercy is vengeance. It's no longer justice. So I hope I have shared with you. The answer is that the executive has not invited consultation. It has declared the terms of war. It has given us a concession that this, I have finished all of you now. I have finished you. I have finished you. I have taken over your judiciary. These are the terms of the armistice. You are a conquered people. You are no longer citizens. You are my colony. Museveni has declared us his colony, and you're telling us to go and negotiate with the colony. You can go. Pick your clan, pick your friends, pick your people. Go on. But as the bar, we shan't do that. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Mr. President. Our most perpendicular Vice President is here. And allow me, at this point of time, invite him to say how are you to our members. He has been engaging the press since morning. Mr. Vice President, I invite you, please, come and say hi to the members, and especially in these issues that we are discussing today. Thank you.
Thank you, Adam. Thank you, Mr. President. I came in when you were already addressing colleagues here. I also would like to thank our Secretary, Gumite Babu, who has been standing in the gap, and most importantly, the Fourth Estate, who are always here with us every time we call upon you. Colleagues, I come in.
Mr. Perpendicular, if I may interject a bit.
Pardon, President, I didn't hear that.
If I may. With your permission, suggest an interjection.
I suggest?
May I? An
Please.
interjection.
Please, please.
Yes. Our colleagues from the fourth estate who have been with us since 10 o'clock, now 3 hours, have listened to a lot of English. And going with our resolution to reach the people, may I suggest that you offer all your contribution today in Luganda or in Akitara or both, because you are very capable of speaking 12 local languages in Uganda, including Lusoga very well, Mr. Ngovi.
All right. Thank you very much, Mr. President. I'll just mix the languages up. Kirabika oluzungu tuliriza lungi nnyo. Sibadde we bitandikidde nange mbadde nva ku TVM okwogera ku nsonga zezimu zetwogeddeko wano, okusinziira ddala ffe nga Uganda Law Society nga Radical New Bar, endowooza yaffe ku bintu ebigenda mu maaso, ekisookera ddala engeri gye tulaba essiga eddamuzi n'ebitongole ebirala byonna gye bikolamu emirimu gyabyo nga essiga erya executive oba obukulembeze oba government oba omukulembeze w'eggwanga ng'alagira ddala nti yabalagira ekyokukola ye batambulira ku biragiro so si ku ndagiriro ya ssemateeka kyebagamba, era ne tulaba nga kikosa nnyo effuga y'amateeka oba engeri gye tulina okukolamu emirimu gyaffe n'omuntu wa bulijjo engeri gy'alina okuba nga afunamu mu nfuga y'amateeka mu ggwanga. Era bw'otunulira engeri gye tuze tulaba omusango oguli eggaba gwa Okero, n'engeri ffe nga bannamateeka etteeka litukakatako okulabika nti mu mirimu gyaffe tukulembeza ekiyamba omuntu wa bulijjo oba munnayuganda yenna oba public okusinga ebirala byonna. Bw'obeera lawyer munnamateeka obeera ne client, olina okuba ng'omuyamba oba ng'omukulembeza okukola emirimu gye, n'obeerako ne kooti, naye ekisookera ddala waggulu bwevunaanyizibwa bwe tulina eri omuntu yenna oba the public. So tolaba nga engeri gy'ebize ebikolebwamu nga naffe balooya bannamateeka abali mu kukiikirira ng'ate nabo tebakoze kyebasaanidde okukola okulwanirira eddembe ly'obuntu, n'ogezaako okutuukiriza ekyo ekiyamba bunti yenna wa bulijjo. Ffe nga bakulembeze ne tulowooza nti kikyamu nnyo ne tubayo ne tukivumirira, era y'ensonga lwaki tugezaako okusomesa abantu okubalaga nti tulina obuvunaanyizibwa obusingira ddala nze kyendowooza ng'omuntu nga looya oba kukola ssente ensasulwe oba okurepresentinga client wange yena mu kooti. Kyenina okusookera ddala waggulu kwe kulabika nti ndwanirira oba nfaayo nnyo ku kintu oba ku ddembe ly'omuntu wa bulijjo kyekisookera ddala. N'olwekyo tuzze tuvumirira mu birabye. Sekretary waffe wano yagezaako okugenda eggabakolo ne bamujimba ne bamukwata amataayi, ng'ate ne tulaba nga n'abandi baddeyo nga batuyambako okutuusa eddoboozi lyaffe, bannamateeka baffe nabo ne batakikola. Weewunye no n'omulamuzi naye munnamateeka naye abeera looya. Kooti abagirimu balooya baffe, abalamuzi, ba state attorney balooya bonna, naye ate ne balemererwa okutuukiriza obuvunaanyizibwa bwabwe obutuweebwa etteeka erya Uganda Law Society Act. Y'ensonga lwaki tuvuddeyo ne tuvumirira ekyo era ne tukola ekiwandiiko kye tukoze secretary kyasomye wano Babu nga tuvumirira ebigenda mu maaso, ne tugamba nti eyo nkola ffe nga bannamateeka oba nga abakulembeze tetukkiriziganya nayo, era ne tugamba bye bakola bikyamu. Nsanze President ng'ayogera ku etteeka lye batadde mu Parliament, the Sovereignty Bill gye muwulira, era akinyonyodde bulungi. Mbadde nfollowinga online nga sinatuuka wano, era n'alaga bulungi obuzibu obukirimu nti mu kwongezaako n'obutayagala nnyo ku kirungi abyogedde mu luzungu, tufe tugamba nti eryo etteeka, era President ayinza okuba yakizzeemu nti eryo etteeka lya AI wolitunuulira lyonna okuggyako title gye bagiyise Protection of Sovereignty Bill, ebisigadde byonna ebirimu mu tteeka eryo bikyamu nnyo bimenya ssemateeka n'amateeka amalala nti bw'okitunuulira kya bulabe nnyo nti etteeka eryo lya bulabe nnyo. Tulina okumanya nti etteeka eryo livudde mu gavumenti, ekitegeeza nti limaze okuyita ku levo zonna, nti cabinet oba essiga erifuga eri executive batudde ne bagamba lino etteeka lye twetaaga, nti n'omuwabuzi wa gavumenti w'oli awo Attorney General waffe naye yagambye nti owaye lyetteeka tuufu, nti we batuukidde okulituusa mu Parliament ne NRM caucus bateekwa okuba batudde ne bagamba etteeka eryo tulyetaaga. Naye nga olitunuulira nga bwe lirambikiddwa, mukimanyi nti ennaku ebbiri emabega eziyise ndowooza balireese mu Parliament. Parliament eyo gye tulimu bali mu nnaku ezisembayo. Sipiidi yokka ey'ekijungirizi gye batwalirako etteeka lino nga baakava Kyankwanzi bamaze okuba obukadde 10 bwe tutamanyi bwaki, ate bamwe balina okujja batuule. Tulina amateeka g'enjawulo bbiri ez'enjawulo ezibadde mu Parliament eyo nga zitudde tezinaggwa nga nazo nkulu nnyo. Lwaki ate tetulabayo bbiri wadde emu nti gye bakulembeza gye batwala mu maaso naye ne baleeta ekipya? Bakoze okuyita ndowooza ekiwandiiko kyafulumiddwa eggulo nga kiyita bannansi okusaayo endowooza yaabwe, nti omuntu wa bulijjo kyalina okumanya nti kino ekyayisiddwa etteeka lye bagezaako okuyisa likwata ku muntu yenna yenna, ng'otuuse ne ku muvuzi wa booda ali ku street, jjajja ali mu kyalo, ali mu nnimiro kulima lumonde, akaduuka kali mu kyalo, n'omuntu yenna Munnayuganda asobola okwesanga nga mumenyi w'amateeka nga ate asibiddwa emyaka 2 oba bamutaddeko okusasula biliyoni 2 ku lw'ensonga nti biliyoni 2 ku lw'ensonga nti bw'oweesanga ng'omenya etteeka. Naffe tugamba nti tuli mu kukola ku kiwandiiko kyaffe kye tugenda okusaayo okunnyonnyola n'okuwakanya ne sekuwakanya etteeka lino lye bagezaako okuyita ku lw'ensonga ez'enjawulo nga ze muwulidde, nti ekisookera ddala kimenya ssemateeka yonna. Teri kawaayiro ne mwetegereza ekiwandiiko ekyo n'ekigambo kye bagamba nti sovereignty, temuli kyonna ekinnyonnyola sovereignty kyeki, wabula okuggyako we baleeseemu ate ebintu ebibi ennyo. Tuwotunuulira engeri gye kirambikamu omuntu gwe tuyita omugwira, nti bw'aba nga si Munnayuganda abeera wano mu Uganda, oyo kiri obvious yabeera mugwira. Naye ate Omunnayuganda ng'asula bweru w'eggwanga oyo abeera mugwira. Kitegeeza nti obuwaayiro bwonna obuli mu ssemateeka kuva ku akawaayiro ak'omwenda mpaka 15 obulambika bulungi okuba nga nze banzaala nga ndi Munnayuganda n'emitendera ky'omuntu gy'asobola okugiddwako Obunnayuganda oba okuba nga ye munansi, kibuukira kuba bagamba nti kasita oba ng'osula ebweru w'eggwanga, ekitegeeza nti wenva wano oba gwe ova wano n'ogenda e Kenya wena by'ogenza okukola oba ate ofuuse mugwira, nti omuntu yenna kuba terirambika.
Kasita olinya ennyonyi
foreigner
kasita olinya ennyonyi
n'ogenda e Kenya
ne bw'ovuga akagaali
n'oyita Maraba
ebusiya
n'osala
ne bw'ovuga akagaali ebusiya n'osala
oba ofuuse mugwira. Ate ekyo kyokka tekimala, nti bw'oba nga ate nereetamu kye bayita foreign agent, nti omuntu yenna ng'okwatagana n'oyo omugwira, kitegeeza nti bw'oba nga jjajja ali eyo mu kyalo, mutabanyi wagenze e Kenya oba bano be mulaba bakadaama nga nkuba kyeyo, ali Dubai, ali UAE, bano be mulaba bagenze ku wano tewali embeera yabalemerera, nti alina obuyambi bw'agenda okusindika, nti jjajja afune obuyambi obwo mu kyalo, ali mu ddwaliro anoonya bujjanjabi, musajja we abeera bweru, oli mu ddwaliro ogenda kuzaala, alina okusindika ssente, nti gwagenda okufuna ssente ezo oba ofuuse foreign agent, kitegeeza nti olina ate okusooka ogende wa minisita ofuna olukusa oba license ekukkiriza okufuna ssente ezo, nti oba tokikoze ate oba omenya mateeka. You can imagine oyinza okutunuulira engeri abantu kye bagenda okubonaabonamu.
Vice President.
Yes, President.
Vice President.
Nkuwulira ssebo.
Abantu abasinga essira balitadde nnyo ku ssente, naye just n'okunyumyamu emboozi.
Yes.
N'omuntu nakyo kikuleetera poliisi okulondoola, era olina okweroopa n'okwewandiisa n'okusaba olukusa osobole okukuba essimu ebweru gwe ggwanga tuzzeeyo kubanga bwe kyali edda nga ogenda ku post office n'osaba bakuwa obudde obutonoko oyogereko n'omuntu w'ebweru.
Tate nebyeyogera birina okuba nga bitegerekeka.
Nebyeyogera basooke bakugambe oyo bagambe.
President, bw'otunuulira tulina abannayuganda basomera ebweru.
Yes, Vice President.
Yes. Tulina abannayuganda abaana baffe abasomera ebweru, oli mu ssomero, abakola research, tulina abantu abasupportinga n'amalwaliro wano. Nti n'oba ng'ogenze bweru kusoma oba ofuuse mugwira ndoza nakyogeddeko kyogenza okukola tebakyogerako oba okozeeyo kyoba kyekikututte. Nti naye ate n'oba nga ggwe oli wano okola research okozesa information evebwerera obamenya amateeka. Nsanze omukulembeze ayogera ku kye tuyita tourism nti Uganda ng'eggwanga tufuna nnyo abava ebweru batourist abajja wano ne baleeta ensimbi mu ggwanga. Nga ate government naye efunyemu sente nyingi. Bw'otunuulira ndowooza last year zaali $2.5 billion. Nti abantu abo bajja wano abasinga abagwira abazze wano okukyala. Nti ayita mu process nti wano tulina zi tour agents nti oli bw'asasula ssente agenda kujja wano aze kukyala aleese ssente mu ggwanga. Nti gwe amubuukinze nga tolina lukusa olina okusooka ogenda ofuna olukusa ate oba omenya amateeka basobola okukusiba. Kati ndowooza olaba embeera gye kiteekawo gye kireeta. Tulina bano abaana ennaku zino tulina social media, muli ku zi TikTok, muli ku zi YouTube, muli ku zi Spotify. Nti information company ezo ze mulaba ezisinga si za wano X. Nti waliwo bano bemmanyi nti ye buli mwezi ayina sente zafuna okuvako ogwo mukutu ku content gw'oteekayo. Ndekiteeza sente ezo gw'okuzifuna ate tooka kwanga weewandise kuba ofuuse foreign agent. Tolina okuba ng'ofunye olukusa. Watu ofunye olukusa era nabo bagenda kukusiba. Ndowooza olaba engeri ekikwata ku buli omu. Etteeka lino lya bulabe nnyo tetusobola naddikkiriza. Maybe nga ngezaako okunnyonnyola nga tukoncludinga Uganda amateeka ge tulina mangi nnyo bye boogerako. Bw'otunuulira banka zaffe zonna teri banka ndowooza tulina banka 3 zokka eza wano e Uganda. Teeka okuba Post Bank, ndowooza ne Pride awamu ne waliwo banka endala ey'okusatu. Naye banka ezisinga zonna zirimu za wabweru zi Stanbic ndowooza ne Centenary naye ya wano. Naye bw'otunira banka ezisinga za wabweru sinti tetulina amateeka agafuga abantu abo mu mirimu gye bakola. Amateeka gamala. Naye you can imagine nti emirimu ekitegeeza egikolebwa wano gyonna bye bakola bijja kuba bimenya amateeka nga tebafunye lukusa. Naye mu kikulu kya byonna nti netteeka ligezaako okuddamu okuwandiika ssemateeka buto. Kigambo sovereignty simanyi ng'egye nsobola okiteeka mu Luganda. President ayinza okuba akimanyi okunsinga oba olulimi olulala lwonna nandibadde nsobola okiteeka mu Lunyakitala oba mu Luteeso naye simanyi ne kigambo tosobola kinnyonnyola nti ssemateeka kawaayira kasooka kagamba nti omuntu Omunnayuganda yali sovereign oba yalina obuyinza eri government teyinza kusinga oba omukulembeze tayinza kusinga omuntu wa bulijjo obuyinza. Nti ekitegeeza kye baagala okukola bw'oba oyisiza etteeka lino nti obwayiro obusinga mu ssemateeka oba tebukyalina mugaso ng'akawaayiro 38 akakkiriza Munnayuganda okwetaba mu kwogera ku civic engagement oba ebintu enfuga y'eggwanga. Nti buli lw'okikola bano oyogera ku nsonga yonna mulimu nti bw'ona owakanya government policy ekitegeeza nti Munnayuganda bamuggyako obuyinza okwetaba mu kuwabula oba okwogera eri engeri gy'alina okufugibwamu. So ffe tulivumirira ebiri mu tteeka eryo bingi nnyo ebikosa buli omu mu byenfuna mu byo ngenda kukozesa Luzungu mu social, economic and political life of a general Ugandan. Si tekikwata ku ssente zokka President gwayogedde naye n'abantu b'oyogera nabo freedom of association abantu b'okwatagana b'onyumyamu nabo oyinza okukikola ng'omenya amateeka. Nti ate ne lijjaliwa minisita amaanyi amangi ennyo nti waliwo naye byalina okusalawo nti bada asobola n'okusalawo oba oli mugwire oba oli munansi. Ate n'ekirala nti emirimu gy'okola alina n'obuyinza obusalawo nti egyo gimenya amateeka mikyamu. So nze ng'amaliriza President kyengamba nti Uganda tetulina bw'otunulira etteeka eryo n'obuuza ki kye bagezaako okulwanyisa. Buli tteeka eriyisibwa wateekwa okubaawo ensonga lwaki etteeka eryo liyisibwa. Ki kye balwanyisa, ki kye bagezaako okuziyiza, what is the mischief. Naye bw'otunulira ku tteeka lino lye baleeta okuggyako okulaga nti baagala kukontrolinga civil society oba abantu engeri eggwanga gye lifugibwamu tebaagala babeewo akyogerako n'okuziyiza omuntu wa bulijjo Omunnayuganda nti bamaze okuyita mugwira bw'obanga ogenze mu mbeera eyo. Kitegeeza nti n'emirimu gyonna gye tukola, President, you might need to be aware, muyinza n'okuba nga mulina okukimanya nti wano ku Uganda Law Society tukola legal aid. Nti legal aid eggwanga lyaffe nga Uganda, mukimanyi nti mu bantu 10 mu Uganda, muntu omu yekka alina obusobozi obusasula lawyer. Gavumenti yaffe yalemererwa okuteeka mu nkola kye twayita legal aid bill, oba gavumenti okubanga yekola ku tteeka eryo eriyamba omuntu wa bulijjo atalina mwasirizi atalina busobozi. Nti so ffe wano tukola kye tuyita legal aid. Legal aid project.
Vice President, I can give some input here on legal aid. Etteeka eryo gavumenti yaganya okulireeta okumala emyaka 3. Nga bwe mumanyi ssemateeka akawaayiro ke twogeddeko mu Executive Order number 9 Article 28 sub-article 3 akawaayiro 28 lunyiriri olwokusatu kagamba gavumenti eriteekawo enkola ey'okudduukirira omuntu atalina mwasirizi nga afunye obuzibu n'amateeka azze bamulese embuga talina ssente talina busobozi bwa kufuna lawyer. Walina okubaawo enkola nga gavumenti yegisasulira. Kati gavumenti yateekawo nkola eyo. Waliwo MP Teso ndowooza bamuyita, let me give the name properly in the record.
Teso
Gulu bamuyita ani?
Should be Mapendo.
Bamuyita ani MP? Ani?
Is it
bamuyita Osigo or something. So anyway, etteeka lyajja Attorney General bamuyita Silas Augon yalireeta mu 2022 nelifuna first and second reading. Bwe lyajja for third reading okuliyisa Attorney General Kiryowa Kiwanuka first of all bwe okujja yalivuumirira nnyo n'agamba lyeteeka obuyinza bwa gavumenti simanyi na financial implication wagifuna otya kubanga ligenda litusaba ssente ezitasukka wansi kuba billion 47 situziina bwe yagamba kyenayagala okugattako mbu situziina parliament negamba executive sigwa tusalirawo ffe tujja kusalawo ssente weziri. So it had come up for third reading. Government neyogera bweti. I want to put this on the record. Kiryowa Kiwanuka nsumika mbi mugambe n'ayimirira mu lujjudde n'asaba etteeka eryo alireese akkiriza okusaba kwa gavumenti okulijja ku mmeeza naye esaba lireme kweyongerayo kubanga gavumenti erina ssente za kutuukiriza tteeka berigamba. Gavumenti terina ssente za kuteeka ku nsonga za kuddukira muntu wa bulijjo. Ssente mmeka nno ezogerwako? Palamenti yali yo yetegese okuwa biliyoni 47 buli mwaka. Biliyoni 47 buli mwaka. So Attorney General n'ayogera bw'ati nti gavumenti mugikirize neteeka tulireete mu palamenti eddako nga tumaze okwetunulamu ne Ministry of Finance tulireete ng'ebbago lya gavumenti. Kati why I want to say this is that as we speak now, government is asking for supplementary budgets in trillions of shillings, including medical care yaabwe, motoka zaabwe, naye sente z'okuddukira ebintu ebiri constitutional. Nga kino Article 28 sub-article 3 nti temweyita gavumenti, temuleeta abantu mu kkooti nga temulina busobozi kuddukira abatalina mwasirizi. Babivuddeko. Constitutional priorities are not being funded, and they are funding discretionary priorities. So, Mr. Simwe, place that one into context, and then bring the issue of how campaigning for a legal aid program will be illegal, and will get you in jail for 20 years, you yourself.
Yes, President. Nayanza bado sente zeddeko billion 47 ndowooza ze bawadde ba member of parliament ba NRM ekyankwanzi guteekwa omwaka gwe muwendo ogwo naye president neyanziza okwongeza ku ekyo naye okusinziira ku background eyo kitegeeza nti singa tuvaayo ne tugamba nti tujja kulekera okwaffe tutukiriza kino okusinziira ku kawairo namba 3 muteeka eri tufuga okuyamba omuntu wa bulijjo yensonga lwaki tukola legal aid naye ate ffe kitukakatako naddala office eyange nga vice president oba nga chairperson wa legal aid okugenda nga tusabiriza tunoonyereza ssente ezinafuga oba ezinatuyamba okukola legal aid oba okulabika nti omuntu wa bulijjo afunye lawyer tulina clinics 28 mu ggwanga oba offices omuli balooya abasuka mu 100 nga bali eyo mu districts ez'enjawulo mu byalo nga bawa obuyambi omuntu wa bulijjo nga fe abamusasula omusaala kuba wali abantu abo benjogeddeko nti ku bantu 10 omuntu omu yekka alina obusobozi abalina emisango gy'amataka bawala abasajja batalabirira abaana waliyo obutabanguko obuli eyo mu maka waliyo n'ebintu eby'enjawulo abalina ebizibu eby'enjawulo naye nga tebalina busobozi so nti ffe kitukakatako ng'ekitongole fe abanoonya obuyamba abantu abo omuntu wa bulijjo kuba gavumenti eremereddwa okikola nti kitegeeza nti ffe nga ekitongole ekisookera ddala oba nga abano Uganda Law Society nti okufuna obuyambi obwo tuba tumenya mateeka nti nange kenyini baba basobola okunsiba emyaka 2 nti oyo lawyer omwana gwe tusindise Karamoja atudde awatali law firm wadde n'emu nti waliyo office ya legal aid yokka bebawa abantu beyo obuyambi omusaala gwafuna okuva wano kitegeeza nti naye aba afuuse foreign agent kuba sente zivudde bweru nti ate n'oyo mwenyini omuntu afunye obuyambi kuba abantu abo betuyamba bamu abatalina nange ejyatuuka ku kooti abamu baba beyiro nga talina na sente esasula beyiro bafuna obuyambi okuva muffe kitegeeza n'oyo omuntu naye gwe tuyambye naye aba afuuse foreign agent naye asobola okusibibwa emyaka 2 n'olwekyo tugezaako okubalaga etteeka lino engeri erikosaamu buli kimu buli koona yonna gye tulaba nti n'omuntu yenna afuna obuyambi obw'engeri eyo tulabye amadwaliro ag'enjawulo wano nga obuyambi buva bweru obukola abafuna no ebyuma bye bakozesa obujjanjabi bwe bafuna tekitegeeza nti buli kimu buli system oba bya bulamu oba bya nfuno oba si bya nfuno oba bya social life so nga nkoncludinga bakoze okuyita twakiraba wano juzi nga bayise etteeka erikwata ku UPDF Amendment Act bwe twafuna okuyitibwa wano ssaawa 5:30 nga batusuubira ssaawa 6 tugende tuwa obwabuzi bwaffe naye wano bakoze okuyita bannayuganda bonna ng'ejje mulabe nti kikosa omuntu yenna wa bulijjo si kya Uganda Law Society yokka ffe president nga yagedde tetujja tuula tusirike tukirabe tetujja sirika tukireke kiyitewo naye ate kuno okulinga okukunga omuntu wa bulijjo tulina ba MP baffe abo bafunye $1,010,000 ba member of parliament bemwasindise mu parliament waliwo ne bana abali kuvaayo bemwasindikayo nti bo baweereddwa ssente bagende bayise kino nti naye mwe mwabasindikayo mu parliament mulina okugenda okubasaba okuba buli antu owaaye kino tetukyagala oba kitegeeza agende waabwe waka oba kumukubira mu masimu kuba waba anoonya akalulu ndowooza waba atuuka buli wamu towaaye kino tetukyagala kigenda tukosa etteeka lino toliyisa era mukiteeke ku record nti ffe ng'abantu b'okulembera tetukukkiriza okukkiriza etteeka lino okuyitawo tusaba mwenna muteeke n'endowooza yammwe kuba ekirungi kuno okuyita bakukoze public wadde ebbanga ndowooza wiiki emu yokka so ffe tukunga eri bannayuganda bonna okuvaayo mulage obutali bumativu ku tteeka lino lye bagezaako okuyisa muyite mu bakulembeze bammwe n'okubagaana okugenda okuyisa etteeka eryo kirabike bulungi nti n'abo banagenda mu maaso ne balonda nti bakkiriza tteeka eryo balabikiddwa nti bo basazeewo okukola mu abalonzi bye baabasindika okukola si bye bakoze gye bagezaako okuyisa tebibayamba wabula bibakosa nga bannayuganda kwe kukunga kwenkola ffe ng'ekitongole tujagenda mu maaso nga tulwanira eddembe ly'obuntu nga ssemateeka bw'atulaga ate n'ekirala tetusobola kutuula ne tusirika tulabye wano abantu abajjanga naffe mu ntalo bwe ziti ebitongole civil society baabiwera nga tugenda mu kalulu naye ate bw'otunira n'etteeka lino ligezaako okuwerera ddala civic engagement ekitegeeza nti national objective principles ebiri mu constitution yaffe ebikkiriza civic engagement byonna bikyamu akawaayiro 38 kakyamu nti constitution bagezaako ogiyisa nga we baagala n'okugisangula oba n'okugiddamu okugikyusa nga bakozesa etteeka lino so nga amaliriza okugezaako okukkatiriza nti ffe kye tubasaba omuntu wa bulijjo yenna oba oli w'amawulire oba oliwa omuntu abulijjo oliwako olima oba oli kaduuka oba oli mudwaliro nti etteeka lino mmanya ligenda kukosa era kikukakatako ng'omuntu nga munnauganda okwerwenako kuba obuyinza okusinziira ku kyetuyita sovereignty mu kawairo namba emu gwe alina obuyinza ng'omunnauganda obuyinza wabula tebulimu oyo gw'osindiseeyo gwe twalonda okutukulembera wabula gwe alina obuyinza okusalawo engeri gy'ayagala okufugibwamu oba engeri gye eggwanga lirina okutwalibwamu naddala ku bintu ebikukosa so nga tumaliriza ffe tubakakasa nga Uganda Law Society nti kino tetujja kikkiriza kubaawo tuzze tubirwanirira era tujja kulwanirira dda mpaka ku lunaku olusembayo okulaga nti kino tekikolebwa naye twetaaga amaanyi amalala okuva eri abantu betulwanirira kuba tulwanirira mwe tetwerwanirira nga ffe tekikosa nze nzekka wabula ffenna nga bannayuganda kitukosa so tubakunga muvenga ennaku ezo tezinatuuka mulaga obutali bumativu n'okutwalayo endowooza zammwe mu ngeri yonna oba oyita ku mukutu oba owandiika oba ogenda ku mukulembeze n'otwala ekiwandiiko engeri yonna kuba kino kitukakatako nga bannayuganda tweyanziza bana ng'otuwuliriza nze ndowoozaawo wenkomye Mr. President.
Thank you so much, our most perpendicular Vice President. Yes, I think this marks the end of our press conference today. We thank the press and the members who have attended both virtually and physically. Ladies and gentlemen, keep the discussion ongoing. The media, they will play today's event on television, and others are going to post on their social media handles. And as ULS, we shall also keep the discussion ongoing, especially with the protection of the sovereignty bill, the discussion around that. I thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for being part of this wonderful press conference, and to request you that always keep responding positively to our calls when we have such historic events. Thank you so much.